What is the inner child? The inner child is the most creative aspect of the self. Individuals who represent and speak on behalf of the inner child are Dr. Seuss, Mr. Rogers, J.K. Rowling. Those are three great examples among many who really represent and speak on behalf of the inner child. So let's look at Dr. Seuss. We all know Dr. Seuss. Okay, he represents imagination, represents a land of possibility that's very uplifting and colorful and bright. When we think of Mr. Rogers and his puppet shows and how he used his puppetry to help children deal with heavy emotions. And he used a very theatrical and colorful and spirited and jazzy TV show, we could say, to help children best navigate life with a sense of optimism rather than the pessimism and the fear and the self-doubt. And when we think of J.K. Rowling with Harry Potter, we know Harry Potter. Harry Potter is all about opening up your mind to magic, into wizardry. And J.K. Rowling, she expanded that into what we know as Harry Potter world, where you can literally go and you can purchase your own wand. You can go to the Harry Potter wand store and you can have the whole experience of finding your wand. So the inner child is very expansive. So anybody who is doing something very expansive that really uplifts and represents optimism, imagination, something that's highly original, okay, such as Dr. Seuss, Mr. Rogers, J.K. Rowling. They're extremely original in the way we have many creativity on this planet. We have many people doing all kinds of things, but they're all kind of very much piggybacking off of each other, where it's kind of like same, repeat, I like to say. But J.K. Rowling, that is its own sort of realm, we could say. And same as Mr. Rogers, he was a pioneer. All of these people are pioneers in the way that they pioneered forward a new style of creativity. When we think of Mr. Rogers, he really pioneered what we call as a children's TV show to help children, that speaks to children directly, to help them with life. We think of Dr. Seuss, as he was very much the front runner to this whole land of children books and children books. And he's one of the most renowned and revered authors for being able to speak directly to the children through their imagination and their love for color and for high spirit energy. Same thing as J.K. Rowling as well. She speaks directly to a young audience that is hopeful, that is looking for something deeper. So when I say the inner child is the most creative aspect of ourselves, the inner child is also the most soulful. Okay, it's the most soulful aspect of ourselves. It's our precious gem. It's our pearl inside of our oyster shell. So what happens when we are an oyster shell without a pearl? We know what happens. We become that adult who looks very drained and dull and empty and unfulfilled and dissatisfied, dried up. I mean, you fill in the dot, okay? And that is not what we are to be. We are to be a magnificent reality, a majestic reality. But on this planet, for some time, for a very long time, we basically have install this belief that anything outside of the institution, okay, the way we live our life, we follow the institution, that kind of thing. Anything outside of that is extraordinary in the way that it can't reach greatness. Greatness is inside the institution. Anything outside is what we call extraordinary in the odd, strange, queer, peculiar kind of way. And when we think of J.K. Rowling, when we think of Dr. Seuss and Mr. Rogers, they are all those words. They're seen as queer, strange, odd, peculiar, extraordinary, and of a kind of funky and a little bit edgy and kind of out there sort of way. But they fully embrace it. And that's the one thing about adults and why we become these oyster shells without a pearl, is because we don't embrace our inner child. Either in childhood somebody shamed us for our natural talent, okay, our natural expression, whatever that may be. Could even be our laugh. They judged us for our laugh, the way that we spoke. They shamed us, the way that way we ran, or the way we spoke, or anything. We've got shamed, and what happens is we don't embrace the inner child, and then we start to slowly lose our creativity. And our creativity is our spirit for life. And when that fades, usually when we see kids and they lose the light in their eyes when they become like 25 or something, they start to look like, these adults who are all copying each other to get somewhere, and that getting somewhere is not really anywhere any it's just kind of, it's just like same kind of thing, nothing special. Okay, nothing special. Is that high spirit that is the inner child. So the inner child is not meant to die when we reach 25 and then we just become a bunch of adults who just all copying each other, a herd of sheep that are just wandering around just doing what everybody else is doing because I'm bored or I don't know what else to do with my life. No, we're meant to develop the inner child, okay? And developing the inner child in this society, it requires a lot of courage and it requires a lot of fearlessness. Even to express yourself in a very vulnerable and a very artistic and authentic way is what we call you're a leader if you do that, because nobody is doing that. Okay, in this institution of like everybody's drinking the same sort of, Kool-Aid, to actually express something that is authentic and a little bit vulnerable and original and heartfelt and something that's very sincere and endearing to you, that's like never heard of. That's never heard of. You're bold. You're a little bit brazen, actually. You're a little bit out there for doing that. But what happens is when we develop that part of ourselves, that inner child, which is about being high-spirited, about loving yourself, taking care of yourself, like children, they know how to take care of themselves, really. They know how. They know how to love themselves. They know how to accept and cherish and preserve what actually is very endearing about themselves. So when we do that, we are at the same time, we are taking full responsibility for our creative power. And I see a lot of adults, they don't take responsibility for their creative power. And what happens is when you don't, you're basically saying to the universe, you're saying to the matrix or the institution that I am not a creator. And therefore, I am not a creator becomes I cannot create. So you're bound. Now you're feeling trapped or bound to some sort of institution that says it's like this or like that or like that. And the art of life, okay, and all, the spirituality of manifestation of our soul in this physical body is because we want to create our destiny. And a part of creating our destiny is we need a lot of will. And will is high energy, is high spirit. And the only way we're going to actually be able to have that amount of will is that we need to be creative. We need to see life as a creative opportunity to really expand ourselves like a child. They're always growing, they're always healing, and they're always excelling, and it's natural. It isn't a force, and it isn't a hustle, it isn't aggression. It's very much an experience of possibility, soulfulness. So this is very much what I wanted to share with you guys, because I believe the inner child is an aspect of the self as an adult that we don't really look into as a part of our creativity and a part of our manifestation and our greater abundance and our self-love and our loving relationship. We don't really look at the inner child as a big influence. We kind of see it as like, oh, that's the old days. That's the old days. But the old days become the old haggard person when we don't create, when we don't believe that we're a creator, when we don't take responsibility for our creativity.